Hi everyone, really sorry that I can't be presenting live for you all tonight, but I am really excited and really appreciative to have the opportunity to be able to present some of my research, which formed my honours thesis, my engineering degree. And I completed this work under the supervision of Associate Professor Marnie Shaw within the Battery Storage and Grid Integration program at the ANU. And the work was looking at using hot water cylinders in conjunction or as a potential replacement for a community battery in Yea. So Australia has undergone a residential solar boom over the last 10 or so years, and we've achieved the highest installed capacity of rooftop solar PV per capita in the world. And this has come with a fair share of challenges and changes that we will have to make if we want to make the most effective and efficient use of all this solar energy that we're generating. So the issue that people often talk about is that the majority of solar generation occurs at the middle of the day when a lot of people are at work, and this is outside the peak energy demand periods. So energy demand peaks typically in the morning and in the evening, and this is the opposite to when solar is generated. And when we have excess solar generation, we have energy being exported. And conversely, when we have greater demand for energy than there is solar generation, we have to import. And that could be importing at various scales, so to your own home and from your own home, or it could be importing and exporting from the entire town of Yea. And so what we have to do is work out how can we best take this excess solar generation and move it to the peaks so we can begin to use more clean energy more of the time. And so here we see the energy mix for South Australia, the whole state of South Australia. And we see this light yellow colour being rooftop solar generation. And we can see at midday, they set a new minimum operational demand record. So that's the amount of electricity generation that needed to be supplied out to consumers. That was only 100 megawatts. And that's because all of this rooftop solar generation was really pushing that down. And that's fine. But if we look here, there's all this other generation from larger scale solar, from wind that can't generate, and that renewable energy is essentially wasted. So we want to be able to use all of the renewable energy across periods like this, which are supplied by fossil fuels. So we have emission reduction with actually no additional cost from no building no more extra generation. So one possible solution to this that has attracted a lot of attention are community batteries. So community batteries allow excess solar generation to be stored, and these community batteries are a shared resource. So you could have a street or a suburb or an entire town using this community battery to send their excess solar generation into that at midday when they have a lot of solar generation, and then they can use that later in the evening to supply their own homes, or they can export that for a profit. There's a number of different ways of operating that, which are really well described in the Implementing Community Batteries report, which was authored by Associate Professor Marnie Shaw. And then in 2021, myself and another ANU student, Henry, we completed a report for Yea on potential community battery options and whether that would be suitable. And we found that there was a lot of excess solar generation in Yei, and a community battery may be possible. But we also found in analysing the electricity demand pattern for Yei that there was another option that we could explore. And that's demand side management. So typically electricity networks, traditionally electricity networks were operated using on the supply side. So the electricity demand that was assumed to be fixed, and people's usage patterns were understood by the electricity network operator, and they supplied electricity to meet that demand. Demand side management is a different approach, and it better fits in with the electricity system that we'll have in the future, where we can't just store a fossil fuel and generate whenever we like. We have to use the resource when it's available, whether it be solar or wind, as storage of these resources can be quite costly. It can be done, but to use demand side management is a much more cost-effective way of matching our supply of renewable energy to electricity demand. There's a couple of different demand side management techniques. Could be clipping the peak, so reducing the maximum amount of demand. Could be filling the valleys, so reducing the minimum demand, increasing the minimum demand, sorry. It could be load shifting, so it's moving electricity demand from the peaks to the troughs. And to conduct demand side management, we need flexible loads. So a flexible load is any sort of electrical load where the time that you require the service to be completed is different from the time when the electricity can be used. So something like lighting is a completely inflexible load, because you need to turn on the light and use the electricity at the exact same time that you need your room to be lit up. Something like hot water heating is a perfectly flexible, completely flexible load, because you need to heat the water at a different time to when you need hot water. So that could be heat hot water overnight for the morning, that could be heat hot water during the day for the evening, or any permutation of that. And there's lots of different flexible loads in your household. It might be a dishwasher, which you can fill up and then set to run at 3 in the morning. Could be a clothes washer, and it could be space heating as well. And you can air condition your house before you need it to be cool. And so these flexible loads can be used to conduct load shifting, and the that type of demand management. In this figure here, this is just using load flexibility measures, so that's space heating and cooling, and hot water. And you can see that compared to the baseline net load, where they've got heaps of excess solar generation here, and then a large unmet load in the evening, they're able to have much less surplus solar generation and use that to reduce the unmet load in the evenings. They're taking loads which might occur in the evening. People might come home and wash their clothes here. Well, instead of that, they're setting their washing machine to run during the middle of the day from solar energy. And so there's huge benefits to this. On a large scale, these are from International Energy Agency studies. Globally, we could see a potential $270 billion of avoided investment in new electricity generation capacity, transmission and distribution. And in the EU, they could see a reduction in curtailment of solar generation by 45 terawatts as soon as 2040. On a local scale in Yei, we could see increased renewable energy hosting capacity. So that's the amount of energy that can be installed on the network without exceeding the network limits. It can reduce electricity bills and result in emission reductions immediately. So what's the opportunity in Yei? So this is the average demand profile for the entire town of Yei across 2018. And you can see in this early morning period, you have the energy demand peak, and then the minimum energy demand is occurring across the middle of the day from solar generation occurring in this period. And what my research looked at is taking this domestic electric water heating load, so that's electricity going into heating hot water cylinders, and then instead of heating the hot water cylinder overnight here, you're going to heat it in the middle of the day and consume a lot of this excess solar generation, rather than if you were to use a community battery, you might store this solar generation in a community battery and then just discharge it overnight to reduce this peak. So we're essentially cutting out the community battery, which is the middleman in this scenario. And so shifting hot water load, it's not a new concept. There's been a number of studies in Australia, which have looked at this, and they've had really positive results with increased self-consumption. And self-consumption here is, put simply, the amount of solar that you generate, the fraction of that that you use yourself in your own home. So we've increased self-consumption, and we've reduced the amount of electricity that we need to import from the grid using this hot water shifting. And so our overarching research questions were, can this replace batteries? And if it can't replace batteries, can it work in conjunction with batteries, and how do these different strategies interact? So here's a quick overview of the methodology which I used to investigate this. So I came up with 3 different load profiles. So this is the demand or the load that is produced by the entire town of Yea. And the control, so the typical load that was already experienced, is in the green line there. If we shifted this hot water peak here, shifted that to midday, that's our raw shift, just simple moving the hot water across to midday, that load. And then the smooth shift is if we distribute this peak across twice the time period. So that's flatten it out and smooth the hot water shift. And we used a couple of different scenarios. 100 kilowatt hour battery for a typical small community battery is pretty reasonable. And then also battery capacities which were sized to achieve 100% self-consumption. And now the really interesting thing in Yea was that, and of course, in Victoria broadly, you all experience the same electricity tariffs. Now, prior to September 2021, the peak tariff period was occurring from 7 a.m. In the morning through to 11 p.m. At night. So that's when you were being charged the highest price for electricity, typically around 40 cents per kilowatt hour. And then overnight, it was down at around 20 cents per kilowatt hour, just approximately. And this was completely opposite to when there was all this solar generation available. Solar generation is available at midday, and that's exactly when you're paying the most for electricity. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're being discouraged from using electricity when there's heaps of free, essentially, solar generation available. Since September 2021, there's a new electricity tariff available, and that in that situation, the peak period is only from 3 p.m. till 9 p.m. So for most of the time when you've got solar generation here, you're experiencing the minimum electricity price. And so here's the results from my modeling here. And so this is the battery capacity around a megawatt hour of storage. And we see it takes a megawatt hour of battery capacity to utilize all the excess solar generation. Now, if we look at the scenario where we have the raw shift, so we've taken this hot water peak here and we've moved it to midday, we only need 190 kilowatt hours of battery storage to utilize all the excess solar generation. And if we have a smoother shift, distributing this hot water peak over a larger time period, we have a much smaller battery capacity of approximately 60 kilowatt hours. That was looking at a high solar generation day. If we move to a moderate solar generation day with less solar electricity being produced, for the control scenario, all excess solar generation can be stored within a 200 kilowatt hour community battery. And then with the raw shift, that consumes all the excess solar generation. No community battery is actually required for that level of solar generation. So we also looked at the impact on electricity costs under the different tariffs that are available. The old tariff prior to September 2021 and the current tariff that's available now. And under the current tariffs, we see that it is cheaper to have your hot water shifted to midday. The daily household energy cost drops in those scenarios for when we have a 95th percentile, it's our highest solar day, and our 50th percentile low solar day. Now, what's interesting is under the old solar tariffs, for a day where with less solar generation, the old tariffs, it was actually more expensive to do this hot water shift, whereas under the new tariffs now, it's in fact cheaper. So just to summarize these results quickly. So battery storage requirements were reduced when shifting domestic electric water heating to solar hours, and 100% solar self-consumption. Battery capacity is reduced by up to 81.7% under this raw shift scenario, which I described. And this results in an average reduction of 50 cents per day in household energy costs on the high solar day. And of course, with this research, there's some limitations and some things that we need to look into further. So only 2 days were modeled. I only modeled a high solar day and a moderate solar day. And what we need to understand is, do these cost savings occur across an entire year? And as Yay continues to increase the amount of solar generation locally, do the results hold, or do we start to see that this has less of an effect? So on to some conclusions and some practical implications for Yay. So is this shifting of solar of hot water heating to solar hours, is that going to be right for everybody? No, it does depend on what your current electricity plan is, your hot water usage pattern, how many people in your household, and when you use your hot water, and what the current hot water system that you have installed is. It does need to be a storage hot water system rather than instantaneous. And it does need to be quite well insulated and performing well. How do we go about implementing this? So there are a number of commercial off-the-shelf products that do this really well. You can get now smart hot water cylinders. They're sort of might be described as demand response ready. And these can be installed and connect with your solar system. And then anytime there's excess solar generation, it goes straight into your hot water cylinder automatically. You can do this with an existing hot water system. You purchase a smart hot water controller, or otherwise known as a solar diverter, and they're about $1,000, and they can do this job with your current hot water system cylinder. And then just a bit of an eye to the future and what we can learn from this for more broad applications. Demand management and load shifting is going to be increasingly important in the energy transition. As we get more and more electric vehicles, we can't continue to charge them when we come home all in the evening without doing something about the impact of that on the grid. There's this study from Origin Energy which was completed. It's actually an ongoing trial for electric vehicles, and without any incentives, just people using them normally, we saw most people charge electric vehicle overnight, and a lot of them charge it in peak periods as well. With different incentives, that can be reduced. They're only 10% charge in this peak period. So we're going to need to do more load shifting and demand management as more and more of society becomes electrified. The other trend here is that we're going to continue to see solar installations grow. This is the capital cost for small scale and rooftop solar generations as predicted through to 2050, and you can see it's just continuing to fall. So as there's more solar generation available, again, this load shifting and demand management and these sort of strategies are going to be more and more important if we want to get the most out of the solar generation that we have. So yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me here, and I'd be really happy to hear your thoughts. And if something didn't make sense or you want to hear more, please just let me know. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have. So thanks very much for allowing me to present some of this work. I hope you find it useful and applicable to the work you're doing in Yay, and I hope it sparks some interesting discussions about how we can best use the excellent solar generation resources that you already have installed and are going to continue to install in Yay. All the best with your energy transition and the move to 100% renewable energy. Thanks.